Beneath the Commonwealth, there is a cancer, known as the Institute. A malignant growth that needs to be cut before it infects the surface.
They're the real enemy. Not the Raiders. Not the super mutants. Not even those tools over in Diamond City.
In the nearly 40 hours that I've played, it feels as though I've barely begun to scratch the irradiated surface of all Fallout 4 has to offer. However, your experience of Bethesda's latest entry into the seminal post-apocalyptic franchise can and will be hampered down by decidedly last-gen woes. Before I can even begin to comment on the actual content of the game, there are two massive elephants in the room begging to be addressed: performance and graphical fidelity. When I first emerged from Vault 111 and entered the Commonwealth, I was shocked to see that my rig, a GTX 980 Ti and 4790K, were frequently dropping frames in the open areas of the wasteland, down to the low 30s at times. After reading a few forum posts and tweaking the .ini files, I was able to hold a locked 60 FPS at 1440p with everything on ultra save for God rays and shadow distance, which were lowered to medium. Doing so didn't seem to affect the visual quality in any noticeable way either. Similar to Skyrim, Bethesda has enforced government-mandated vertical sync, once again, which led to insane amounts of micro-stuttering. I was able to fix this by disabling Bethesda's VSync in their .ini files and enabling Nvidia's VSync in their control panel instead. Doing this led to a much smoother game, and it runs as smooth as the smoothest skin. However, these fixes might have been simple. It's unfortunate that I had to dig so deep to get an optimized experience. On the console side of things, the narrative is quite different. Browsing on forums and watching Digital Foundry's excellent analysis videos quickly reveals that console performance is less than adequate. Xbox One will regularly drop frames down to the 10s and below when roaming between areas, and PS4 suffers from frequent frame drops and light combat sequences. You would think that the similarly broken state of Skyrim on PS3 at its launch would behoove Bethesda to ensure that their next title didn't suffer the same fate. Unfortunately, that's just not the case. While I'm sure the performance on console will be patched later down the road, that does not in any capacity excuse the performance we see here at launch. The other controversy that has arose around Fallout 4 since the very first footage was released was that of the graphical fidelity. I can attest that in 1440p on PC, the game looks far from bad. In fact, at moments, it was actually quite stunning. This is due in part to the utilization of God ray lighting and physically based rendering, which greatly enhances any scene with a large light source, such as sunlight refracting through tree branches and water. However, there are plenty of muddy-looking assets to be found in the game, and while my player character, companions, and essential NPCs tended to look pretty good, some random characters didn't fare as well. Surprisingly, PS4 and Xbox One both hold up quite well here. Visual quality is near indistinguishable between the two platforms, and while turning down the resolution to 1080p on my PC revealed a much less desirable presentation, it still looked decent and completely passable. Regardless of which platform you choose, animations can vary between passable and downright fucking horrendous.
And then we can bring Vadim back, and everything will be okay. Right? I'll get a gun, and I'll meet you there.
At times, scripted events during quests would start breaking, and I felt as if I was fighting the game to get them to work. It's something that can understandably ruin the game for certain players, but it never reached that point for me. It should be mentioned that these glitches and oddities are completely random, and mileage will vary from player to player. If Witcher 3 levels of animation and flawlessness in scripted events are crucial to your enjoyment and immersion factor, Fallout 4 might be a pretty jarring experience for you. And it's something you should consider if you're undecided on whether or not Fallout 4 is worth your hard-earned caps. The biggest problem with Fallout 3 was the real-time FPS component. While Obsidian did manage to improve upon it in New Vegas by adding ADS, the FPS combat of both titles felt like a tacked-on afterthought. I'm delighted to say that Fallout 4's real-time component is on par with the average modern shooter. It feels like a mix between BioShock Infinite and the modern Battlefield games. It manages to be simple to control without making the game feel trivial in its difficulty. Each shot of my rifle, even at low levels in the beginning of the game, felt powerful, concussive, and meaningful. It's a sensation that was severely lacking in the last two Fallouts. Never did I feel like I was fighting a Destiny bullet sponge or a Call of Duty cardboard cutout.
hunted our crew.
I heard Pinkman skinned Roy alive after he snatched him. Let the rats get at him. Gives me the creeps just thinking about it.
No joke. The faster we clip this asshole, the better. It always feels like something's watching me in here.
The addition of a voice protagonist, and simultaneously as a result of that, a revamped dialogue system, initially disappointed me. But after playing many hours with my character having a voice, a damn good one at that, I couldn't imagine it any other way. While I was sad to see the visual novel-esque system of old disappear, the new Mass Effect style system streamlines conversations by consistently establishing certain tones to 4 different options. Left is usually a nice reply, right, bad, up, a question, and down, a neutral response. So far, I haven't found the dialogue prompts to be misleading either. My character always says what I was expecting. At this point, it's probably also worth mentioning that the karma system is completely gone. However, the companions that you pick up along the way have their own likes and dislikes. For instance, one of the early characters you can travel with, Piper, fits the positive karma archetype, and as such you will gain points for doing positive actions in dialogue scenarios, and negative points for doing negative things like stealing items from people. I found this new system to be far more natural and thematically suiting than an overarching karma system. The leveling system has also been completely revamped. While some might miss the granularity of the old system, the new special dependent system feels streamlined, not dumbed down. In Fallout 3 and New Vegas, it felt as if each level was just inching my character towards a milestone that seemed far off in the distance. In Fallout 4, you spend that point that you receive for each level, and it feels like a meaningful decision that will immediately affect your character. There is also a litany of magazines and comic books that you can collect to gain unique perks, rather than the skill point increase of old. During your travels in the Wasteland, you will also encounter legendary enemies that will drop powerful legendary weapons and armor. Yes, it is every bit as Diablo as it sounds, and these pieces of gear will each have a unique perk that completely changes your playstyle. For instance, I got a piece of leg armor that would slow down time when I got to 20% health, which saved my life more times than I'd like to admit. If there's one department that Fallout 4 isn't lacking in, it's content and the variety of that content. There's always a list of 10 plus quests on my Pip-Boy that seemingly grows in an unmanageable fashion. It's also remarkable that in almost every quest I've completed thus far, I was enjoying myself and never felt like I was wasting my time. In one moment, I was helping a bartender instill confidence into the local radio host, and in the next, I was assuming the role of a pre-war comic book hero.
Galaxy News Radio.
Calling all Silver Shroud fans. A once-in-a-lifetime announcement. The Silver Shroud returns and he's gonna clean up the streets. Everyone heard how Wayne Delancey murdered Miss Selmy and her kid over a few lousy caps. Death is coming for you, Wayne.
Galaxy News.
Hey there. What's with the fancy duds? Looks expensive. Might be I found a new friend.
Your crimes have gone unpunished for too long.
What the hell's wrong with you? Well, nothing a few bullets won't cure. You mess with me, you're dead.
It really is an inexplicable part of these Bethesda games. I'm not even sure it's the quests themselves as much as it is the way that they're presented to the player. In a Bethesda game, you're exploring the open world, and you find a house that looks interesting. So you go inside, find a note tacked up on the wall that was left for a raider, and it says that it's the last time that he's going to leave the door up top unlocked, and that you've got to go into the sewer from now on. So you go down into the pond, and you find the sewer entrance, you go inside, you listen in on the raiders' conversation, and then you kill them all and take all their stuff. It's a type of storytelling and exploration that I've never seen another developer emulate to this extent. Fallout 4's world feels lived in and natural, and how you leave your mark on it is your choice to make. The verdict on Fallout 4 is a tough one. While the last-gen Bethesda issues didn't get in the way of my enjoyment, they might be intolerable for some, and I was disappointed to see so many of them still here. I can only attest to my experience of Fallout 4, and so I feel comfortable issuing Fallout 4 a 9 out of 10 on PC and a lower 8.5 out of 10 on PS4 and Xbox One, due to the persistent performance issues on both consoles.
So where is it? Huh? This institute. How do I get there?
Haven't you been paying attention? You don't find the institute. The institute finds you.
Let's go, boy.